Lisa, this is going to be a first for me. So let's get into this. If your child was on a 504 plan and his new school says he's not classified 504 at all, but special education, and I like how you put just special education. Let's go there. Okay, 504 plan is a civil rights law pertaining to accommodations. All right, accommodations, civil rights. There's no real limit to which disabilities can be classified. It's fairly broad, as long as it impacts a major life function of the child, and they are they can show a need for accommodations. Then it's pretty broad, and it's with regards to that need and the ability for the child to have a plan inside of the school. Now, at the same time, it's for accommodations. Now, what is special education? Special education enjoys the benefits of the accommodations because it is still within the class of disabilities. All right? But the federal government recognizes 13 different disability categories, and depending on the state you live in, it may be more. All right? But let's just say that all the states have to recognize the 13. Depending on where you live, there may be one or two more. Like New Mexico recognizes gifted inside of that. So New Mexico actually recognizes 14 categories, not 13. Alabama, on the other side, recognizes 13. And gifted is an outlier, even though gifted is still within the special education regulations tucked at the very end. Because it is considered an exceptionality. All right. Now, a child that has special education has the benefits of what's known as specialized instruction. It's a recognized need that they need academic intervention, communication intervention, social emotional development intervention, functional skills, transitional skills. Those things need to be taught. So that's specialized instruction or special education. 504's accommodations, special education includes specialized instruction, but yet children that have an IEP or special education get the benefits of the 504. Kids who have a 504 do not get the benefits of an IEP or the specialized instruction, okay? So actually an IEP, depending on the nature of your child's needs, is an enhancement of a 504. Okay? Still getting the accommodation, still getting the civil rights protection, but enhanced because now they also get specialized instruction. You still have enforcement power under both, meaning that you as a parent can advocate on behalf of your child through, due process, mediation, state complaint, Office of Civil Rights, those kind of things. Now, what would be absolutely baffling to, or what I just morbidly curious to know, is how they were able to get your child eligible for an IEP without fully explaining this stuff to you along the way. Now, I've seen it happen. I have absolutely seen that happen. Major dropping of balls here, but I have seen it happen. The major concern is that in order for your child to have an IEP or special education would require you to provide, you would have to provide parental consent, meaning that you would have had to sign multiple steps along the way. You would have had to sign a consent form, agreeing to let them evaluate your child. And then if your child was eligible, then you would have needed to attend an eligibility meeting to hear the results of the evaluations. And then at that point, if your child was eligible, you would be required to, sign your name giving consent for them to provide special education services. And then fourth, you would have had to attend an IEP meeting to develop your child's a special education program. And you're required to also sign that you attended and participated in the development of that. That's just to get over eligibility. But you're required to have an IEP meeting every year to update that plan and sign your name again. I mean, they cannot, and then they're supposed to evaluate your child at a minimum of every 3 years. Which would require your signature once again. So there's always constant need for your signature and your participation. And under both, your parental participation is extremely important. So keep that in mind. You're supposed to be involved, but I can tell you that you can go a year, 2 years, 3 years without updating a 504 plan. Not true for an IEP for special education. That has to be done once a year, along with a reevaluation at least every 3 years on top of that. So there's constant movement over here on the IEP side or special education. And depending on the nature of your child's disability, if your child has an IEP, then likely there's a good reason for it. I hope that I provided a good enough explanation for you to understand the process, but I would immediately go to them and ask them for copies of the IEP and copies of the eligibility report and copies of your consent, to ensure that all of that was done right. Because if it wasn't done right, then it's not serving your son correctly. And welcome to the page. This is a good place for you to really learn and become a better advocate for your son. Provide an update though, because I'm really curious about this. Okay.